Yes.
Okay, it's rolling. Charlie's taking a video for me. And I just wanted to talk briefly about food insecurity and some past stuff that's come up for me recently that was kind of really interesting in light of everything that's going on with SNAP. You know, we were a SNAP family for a really long time, and we could have continued to be, but we decided that we didn't like being involved with the government persecution game, so we stopped being on SNAP, even though we still qualified, because we were harassed about false charges. Anyway, that's a whole thing. You can read the lawsuit on my website. We sued the state of Oregon in federal court for multiple counts of civil rights violations against us as a result of that. Anywho, that's not what I wanted to talk to you about. What I wanted to talk about was we were in Boston just the other day, and my son Cole Scott had a meeting to go to in the evening, and it was at the library, at the Boston Library. Is that right, Charlie? And so I said, oh, you got to take Charlie to the Boston Library. He'll love it. It's amazing. It's iconic. It's a cathedral of books. It's so beautiful. And I guess Cole's meeting was like 2 hours. I said, Charlie can find himself something to do in a room full of books in 2 hours, and it'll be really exciting. And then I was excited about that. And then Charlie was with Cole, and I was with the other kids. And I was with AJ, and I had this like visceral reaction, like, how do I know what the inside of the Boston Library is like? How do I know, how do I remember, have a sense memory for the chairs and the tables and the bathrooms and the vending area and, you know, the scope of it and the magnitude and all the types of books and the front desk. I mean, I remember all of these things. I'm like, how is that possible? And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. My dad used to be a waiter at the Copley Plaza Hotel. And that's right across the street from the Boston Library. And when he had us on his custody weekends, when I was like 8, 9, 10 in Boston, there was one time he left us at his apartment during his 8-hour work session without any supervision. I was with my sister, who was a year older. And in that one time, we walked in on his 2 gay male roommates having sex. 2 little girls walked in on, because we opened the wrong bedroom door in his apartment, because it was a many-storied brownstone type thing, and we didn't know which was the living room, and anyway, we didn't think it was a bedroom, and it was traumatic. So my dad's like, oh, well, I can't leave them at home unsupervised. I'll have to leave them somewhere else unsupervised. So he realized the library was right across from where he worked at Copley Plaza, and he went into his shift, and he dropped us off at the library, and I think he gave us $2 for snacks in the vending machine, and we were like 8, 9, 10 years old, had the run of the Boston Library by ourselves for my dad's 6 to 8 hour waiting shift at the Copley Plaza with $2 to spend in the vending machine. And I had forgotten about this. I was like, so visceral. That's why I knew the library, because my dad used to abandon us there on a regular basis. And it was just really interesting to me to kind of have completely forgotten about this memory from my childhood and then remember it in this context. And then yesterday, and so these memories are like coming back, the trauma from my father, but yesterday I was making myself a sandwich. And so usually I put like the mustard on one side of the bread and the mayonnaise on the other, and then I put the lettuce or the ham or the turkey or whatever and tomatoes and stuff, and then put them together. Well, I was tired, so I put the mustard on one side, and then I started to squirt mustard on the other side. And I'm like, okay, well, no big deal. I'm a grown up. And so then I put mayonnaise on that side, and I saw the mustard and mayonnaise mixing together. And I had this flashback to my childhood of my dad didn't have money to feed us. He would make us mustard and mayonnaise sandwiches. He'd put mustard on one side, mayonnaise on the other, put it together, and that was our lunch. We didn't have anything for the middle. And seeing the mustard and mayonnaise being mixed together on one side of the bread reminded me of that. And like, I don't know how many other kids out there in the 70s had their parents who had them on custodial weekends making them mustard and mayonnaise sandwiches and then leaving them at the Boston Library for 8 hours to do whatever the F they want. It's kind of a crazy childhood. And I think we all try to do better for our kids than we had for ourselves. And I think that's fundamentally, you know, what my work is about. When I was that little girl, I always wanted to have 4 kids. I had this fantasy of like a husband and a little house and 2 boys and 2 girls. And you know, my fantasy came true, but I have 4 boys, but you know, they're all a little bit on the any side of things. So I got to dress them up in dresses. So it was just like having 2 boys and 2 girls. And so, you know, I had that dream, but the reason I wanted that dream and the reason childcare was so important to me, and I started babysitting when I was 8 years old, and had my own little babysitting daycare when I was 10. The reason that's always been important to me, because I wasn't cared for as a child. I wanted to make sure I could give children a better life than the life I had as a child. And, you know, ask any one of my childhood friends, there was never any food in the fridge. We had a German exchange student who was taken away from us because she complained that there was no food at the house. That was when I was like 15. So there's, you know, there's people who knew about this. And my whole life, this is getting back around to the chocolate egg. My whole life, I was in charge of earning all the money for the groceries with my sister. Like, my mom would forget to buy groceries. So my sister and I would babysit or do a paper route or whatever, and we would then go take our money and go down to the grocery store and buy the food. We would walk from our house to the 1.25 miles to Hingham Center, Fruit Center, and then walk home with the groceries. I don't know, maybe it was just a mile, I can't remember. And we were in charge of buying the groceries, so that's what we did. And then I remember the first time that I wasn't in charge of making sure everyone in the house had food was when I was in France. So I moved to France, and all the money I earned babysitting, which I was still doing, I was a nanny in France, I got to spend on my own food, and I didn't have to feed anyone else. It was a first. That had never happened to me in my life. And so I was so excited to be like, oh, I have money for these Kinder eggs, and I got these when I was in France when I was 19 years old. I had a huge collection. At that time, it was 1989, 90. There was a whole Pink Panther series, and all the Pink Panthers were little sculptures doing different things, riding skateboards and bicycles, and it was so much fun. The prizes aren't as good anymore. But anyway, there's just so many reasons that this is a metaphor for the United States separately. The difference with this product is a metaphor for the difference between regulatory standards in the United States and Europe. And I'll get into that in another video. But anyway, so when I finally had enough money to buy my own food, I would buy cheeses. My sister said I spent all my money on French cheese. I used to. And I would buy these for myself because even though I was 19 years old, I was like, whoa, there's little toys in here. And that's another thing I didn't have growing up. We didn't have plastic toys. I always, you know, wanted the neighbors' cars and the neighbors' Legos and all the different cool things they had. Now, Charlie, I don't know what this is. One, I'm not wearing my glasses, and I don't know what the heck this is.
Ant-Man.
What is it?
Ant-Man.
This is Ant-Man? It looks like a cat.
It's Ant-Man.
Why does it look like a cat if it's
Ant-Man?
Ant-Man?
He's wearing a mask, and he has fins on the side of his head for like the antenna of his suit.
It looks like this is where he stands.
No, he stands on the end of that beam, and then the beam is attached to the base.
He stands here?
No, other end.
The other end? How does that...
No. Yes, he stands on that end.
Like, balances on it? I don't see a hole. Or maybe there is. Ah, I see. Wait. All right. You might have to... This might have to be... Stay tuned. Oh, wait. I think I might got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the things that they used to sell with these were so cool. They were all these puzzly things and little cars that actually did stuff, like had retraction power and, you know, all these cool things. This one's not as puzzly because of the choking hazard concern. But there's my words of thought for you today. And now, you know, the great thing also I like about this candy, we'll bring it back around to lead, is that this is milk chocolate. I think it's real milk chocolate, white chocolate and milk chocolate. So both of these are one way to have a chocolate treat that has a definite much lower level of lead and cadmium. And I haven't tested one of these. We should. Let's test them, Charlie. And then the other thing about it is this is a very small portion when you think about the amount of candy. So you're not going to overdo it. So in terms of if you're going to give your kid a chocolate, this is not a bad choice because of all those considerations. It's likely to have lower levels of toxicants, and there's not a lot of the piece. You're not going to eat like a whole giant candy bar. Okay, let'savemama.com, tamaroo.com. Thanks for listening to my random stories.